All right, how y'all doing? Today is Tuesday, April 7th, during the coronavirus state lockdown. Um, I'm lucky because I was able to get off work this week. I went to work Monday, and there really wasn't much going on. There wasn't a lot of work orders coming in. It's just kind of slow, which is understandable. So I just asked if I could have the next week off. I got plenty of time available, so anyway, I took advantage of it, and I'm here at the house, and you know, a little bit slower today. I'm not really. I got some ideas of some art stuff I want to do. I brought some. I got some positives, but I'm just not sure what I'm going to do. I'm not sure if I'm going to try to screen print something or just draw or whatever. But anyway, today I wanted to talk about, I guess, my influences. My influences growing up here in Fresno. One of the major influences for me was, and still is music. I grew up. You know, my brother was a music junkie. He still is. I mean, he's a big vinyl guy. He spends a lot of money on his equipment, and he always has. He's always been that way. He just loves good, clean sound. And matter of fact, he turned me on to a sound system that somebody gave him, but he didn't really have any place to put it because, he already has his own system. So anyway, I kind of nudged him a little and say, "Hey man, why don't you give it up?" Blah blah blah, and he did. No problem. He hooked me up with it, and right now I'm working on getting a turntable going. But yeah, music was major part of me growing up. My junior high years, I used to listen to Earth, Wind and Fire and Commodores and Santana. All that was a heavy influence on me. My uncle growing up, he had lowriders. He had a '64 Impala SS Super, 1964 Impala SS Super Sport, and but back then that lowrider was a little bit different back then than what it is now. He had it drop to the ground, but he had like fat tires on it. I think he had like 13 Ansons and Firestones. It was just a little bit different. He had the little Mexican flag on the back window. You know. Me growing up, my uncle was like the coolest person on earth. He just had that coolness to him, and I just really took to it. And he was a big part of me growing up, and because my uncle, one thing about my uncle is he just had this ability to like figure out stuff. How to make this and how to make that. A lot of times you could tell like he'd never done it before, but he would just figure it out. He'd kind of just break it down, and that rubbed off on me too. Then another element there was my brother. He was always buying records, always going and buying vinyl. Back before there was CDs, and he didn't. He had of course a cassette player in his car, but he was more like a vinyl guy. Even back then, I remember him working like 3 jobs, and he bought a really nice stereo system at Sun Stereo here in Fresno, which is no longer here. But even back then, that was a lot of money when he paid for that stereo system. But it did sound, it sounded great. My brother would rattle the doors and drive my mom crazy. But when he used to go get records, I'd tag along with him, and I would just go to look at the album art. I'd be there. He'd be there for hours just trying to figure out what to buy. He could never make up his mind, and so I just tag along and look at all the different album art. The one that I gravitated to the most was Kelly and Mouse. Out of San Francisco. They did the Journey album. They did Steve Miller Band. After a while, I was just looking for that little tiny logo, or if the logo wasn't there, I was looking for the name on the back of the album. And that set me on a pursuit. Then of course I found that they did a lot of the Grateful Dead stuff, and I would just look at it and I was just blown away. Like how do they do it? And then I guess years later I've kind of researched a little bit, and I guess they would do it like maybe twice as big or 3 times as big as the album was. Like let's say the album was 12 by 12, they might do it 36 by 36, the original. And but I never felt like I had even the brain capacity to try to figure out how they did all that. And this was all, airbrushing and, all the finest little details. And, it was something that really, really blew me away. So then the other thing was, growing up a field worker. I used to go work in the fields as a kid, every summer from when I was like 9 years old, go work in the summer to get our school clothes. And it's just the way it was, it's just, and I think my mom was just wanting us to learn the value of the dollar. And she never really made it easy for us as far as like, just giving us this or giving us that. She just never really did. She made us work for what we wanted. If we were laying around the house and saying, "Oh, Mom, I'm bored," that was the last thing you ever told my mom, that you were bored. Because that meant you were going to pull weeds or rake leaves or clean the flower bed or, whatever. There was always something to do. And so you were better off not ever saying that. But yeah, I worked in the fields, and, it was funny because working in the fields as a kid, after you do that, every job after that is easy. It's just like, I was out there in the hot sun and picking grapes and turning trays and all that stuff. And, it was a life's lesson, that's for sure. Then for me to sit there and realize that my grandfather and my dad, they did it, pretty much most of their life growing up, and it was hard work, But I saw my grandpa out there, man, and he was a tough old dog, He had this attack in him, man, when he went at it to work in the fields. And so did my mom. They just knew what had to get done, and they just like put on in a whole different gear. It's like boom. And so you basically had to kind of try to keep up. And I remember my mom telling me, we're out there and we're kind of complaining, and she just like pick her head out and she's like, "Con ganas, let's go." Like we didn't mess around. So that taught me really valuable lesson about hard work and what hard work really is. And then, my dad was a truck driver, and he worked extremely hard. He was, my dad was, it was funny because when it was time to go, he would just pack up his stuff and tell my mom, and then he's like, "I gotta go. He would just like almost run out the door, like, "It's time to go, gotta go make money, And I saw that growing up. I saw my dad, it was like a competition for my dad. It was kind of weird, it was like he had to, quote unquote, win, get the most loads, be the fastest, it's just something that was in him. And it kind of, bled into me and my brothers, because growing up, we were competitive. I mean, I was competitive, but I didn't take it to an extreme, like my competitiveness was like, "Let's go, let's do this." And of course I would do my best, but I wouldn't let it, blow my day, you know what I mean, kind of thing. But yeah, I was competitive. And then when it came to like drawing and art, in junior high and in elementary school, I always wanted to be better, or I always wanted to do better. And so I would always push myself to get better, pay attention. When I had my crafts classes, I was real focused, very focused. Whether it was a leather project or whether it was making a little plastic pencil holder, whatever it was, I was extremely focused, and I just loved it at a real early age, And then the hand lettering came in pretty early. That's what I really liked doing, was the hand lettering. And then when I hit high school, I took a wood shop class because there really wasn't anything that had to do with that. They were trying to get, at that time, had vocational classes, and most of the vocational classes were like cabinet making, carpentry, upholstery, stuff like that. So there really wasn't anything geared towards like that. At least when I was in 7th grade, I didn't see anything, So I took a woodshop class, because I had a woodshop class in, I think, 8th grade or something. And So when I was in my 8th grade class, I made, signs. I routed out signs. But then when I got to high school, that teacher kind of discouraged it. He was kind of like, well, you can't really make any money doing this. He was pushing me towards, learning how to like build stuff, and like those little, they'd have projects where it was don't mind my son, he's in the background. And Gabriel, can you go over there, please? So, those little toolboxes and stuff like that. And I just wasn't into it at all. I just like, so then I found out there was, because I only had that class for maybe a month and a half or so. Then I told my counselor, I got to get out of this class. This is not what I really want to do. So then I found out about vocational. They had a graphic printing class, and I took that. And I think I took that. Well, I think I got through my first semester of the woodshop class. I think I did that. In the second semester, I'm trying to remember. But anyway, I ended up taking that graphic class, and I think that was my junior year, my my junior year, and my senior year. So I took that graphics class. It was weird because I was in the classroom, and you did it the old way. I mean, you had sheets and sheets of hand type that you had to cut out with an X-Acto knife, and if you wanted to, you had to paste them up. You had that light blue grid layout paper, and it took a long time to get stuff done. That's just the way it was. You'd have to do that, then you'd have to shoot the graphics camera, make negatives, and you would have to get it, and they call it, you cut it apart and place it where it needed to be placed, layout wise, so that way if you were printing a poster, a booklet, a foldable thing, everything had to line up. But I just did it. I just did whatever the project was, while most of the other students were just complaining. It's just I just did it. I just did what was supposed to be done, and I did it to the best of my ability. Not really liking it, I guess, but I just did it. And after a while, I kind of got it. I kind of got why you do this and why you do that, and it made sense. And I really started to enjoy it, and it really helped me, later on in life, when it came to like design and layout, and how you approach it, and the importance of pre-press and that kind of stuff. So it really helped me out. It really helped me out big time with what I do now, which is I run a little print shop at a local beer distributor. So I did that, and a lot of the influences growing up were kind of all over the place. Like I remember, like I said, seeing the artwork for Callie Mouse, and then I remember they have different posters on the poles, on the telephone poles from different shows that were coming through town. And so me and my brother, we'd rip those off. We'd rip them off and put them in our room. We thought were the coolest thing, because we had that I don't know, Robin Trower was coming to Fresno, or whoever it was. So we would rip those down, put them in our room, and then I worked for a big printing shop here in town, and for a long time I kind of didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was working, making money, and going out, and one of my close friends was a DJ, and he was all into the music coming out of New York. At that time it was the early hip hop stuff, and I got into that, and I used to make him flyers for different events he'd put on or be part of. That was a lot of fun. I designed his logo for him, and did another logo for another friend on the front of his cabinet. It's a Dr. X earthquake sound, or something like that. and I had a grid, like an earthquake grid going across the letters, it was fun, and then, going to dances and stuff. That was kind of, I remember that when the whole kind of new wave thing was happening, but then there was the Run DMC with the Adidas, and by around that time I moved to LA and got a taste of LA, and that opened my eyes to a lot of stuff that I'd never seen here in Fresno. In Fresno back then, things were kind of segregated, But when I moved to LA, first I lived out by the LA airport, and then I moved more towards the valley. I lived in San Fernando Valley, up towards North Hollywood, and that's where I saw this whole cross culture thing happening. It was kind of a trip. The first time I saw it, I saw these total, like, teased out stoner looking guys, in this little mini truck cruising by, and they were blaring Run DMC. I was like, what the hell, It was a trip. That was the first time I seen that. And then you saw, different places people were bombing sides of buildings, with graffiti, and it was a trip. It was cool. And then we used to go to this real, like, kind of underground punk. It was punk and a little bit of hip hop, but a lot of punk people would kind of hang out there, and they would have punk nights on certain nights, and you'd have to go in through the back. You'd have to go in through the alley. You wouldn't even go to the front. I think it was called Seven Seas. That's on Hollywood. I think it was on Hollywood. And kind of a sleazy place, but, it was cool. I used to go there with a friend, and she knew everybody there. I didn't really know anybody. And, I remember there was this group of punk girls that she knew, and they were called themselves the Skins. And they were all women. I think they were all women, but they all had their heads shaved. They're all completely bald. And you could tell all they really wanted to do was get drunk and, smoke weed and probably other stuff, but it was cool, I found out about, the band X. It was weird because my friend, she grew up around that whole thing, and I remember her bugging the shit out of me, like, let's go see X, let's go see X. And at that time, I knew absolutely nothing about them. I didn't know who they were, nothing. And she did, and I was just like, nah, let's go do something else, blah, 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 blah. And I had all these opportunities to go see them, and I just didn't know who they were. I didn't know nothing about them, because I come from Fresno, and I was a little more, kind of more, at that time, what's on the radio, other than, listening to my friend's hip-hop stuff, stuff that he bought. They really had to go search for to get, So, anyway, I grew up, around all that, and then when I moved back to Fresno, because I lived in LA for, I want to say, maybe a year or something like that. I had some friends and had some fun, and then I moved back to Fresno, and kind of got a job at another printing shop here in town. But then I wanted to start going back towards t-shirts and printing t-shirts and getting to know how to print t-shirts, So I focused my energy on that, and I kind of made up my mind, this is what I want to do. And, taught myself how to do it, really. Back then there was no internet, there was no, it was just buying books, and you'd have to order books and stuff like that. So I gave it a shot, and I ended up doing pretty good, for a while. And somewhere in all that stuff, that I'm telling you, Fresno's in the middle of all that, growing up in Fresno and being from Fresno, and it's just something that I'm not ashamed of, proud of where I'm from. Anyway, that's all I got for today. I'll talk to you later.